The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Okay.
Well, hello, everybody. This is Renee Maloney, Dealer Marketing. Just wanted to kick off the event. We've got Marketing Metrics featured today, and it's brought to you by N2O Marketing. Greg Groneman will be presenting, CEO of N2O. So this is the second of our Monty U series, so glad everyone was able to join, and we hope you continue to find these beneficial. And as you know, we've had marketing featured 2 other webinars starting in September. And so the specific N2O series this is the 3rd of 6 of those. And so introducing Greg again, and you can kick start the webinar now. Thank you, Greg.
Thanks, Renee. And want to thank you guys for joining today. I noticed several of you on the list here have been in, have attended past webinars, and that's great, and I just welcome you back. The purpose today is to talk a little bit about marketing metrics, and before we get too far into it, this is a webinar versus a GoToMeeting, and it has a little few restrictions in that it's not as conversational as I would like, but to kind of help compensate for that, there is a chat box as well as a questions box in the bottom right, and if you have a question, feel free to type that in there. And then it will try to incorporate that as we go. A lot of times, if it comes to you, go ahead and key that in, and we'll address it. I think that the system by default mutes everyone just so there's no background noise to interrupt the broadcast. So if you start talking, you probably won't be heard. So you have to raise your hand or type in a question to talk. We're also recording today's webinar, frankly, because it's almost just as powerful afterwards, because a lot of times folks say, hey, I missed it, I was in a call, or I wish my team member or teammate could have seen that. So all of these are archived and saved, and they're on Monitronics.net. We've also placed them on a page inside of N2O Marketing site where you can click those and watch those after the broadcast. So. But just to get started, hopefully everybody can see my screen. Same slide each time, just really to just introduce myself. I'm CEO of N2O Systems. We are a marketing firm specializing in the security industry. Was previously head of marketing for Sonatrol. We bought Sonatrol from ADT. I was part of the senior team that bought them for $125 million, and we sold them for $275 million in 36 months. And the reason I even ever mention that is one, because we actually did the things that we're talking to you today about. I'm always suspect of webinars. I probably get 5 invitations or 10 invitations a day to some webinar from somebody somewhere out there, and I typically don't attend them because usually they're just disguised sales pitches, and rarely does the speaker actually has done a lot of things that they're talking about. So, we've actually done these things. The things we're telling you aren't always intuitive, and I try to share some perspective of things we've done. But, we grew top-line revenue $60 million. So it wasn't all through marketing, obviously. It's through sales and marketing, and it's through some acquisitions. But nonetheless, it was a fun experience. But in that, and I had responsibility and worked with our dealers, and that is where N2O came from, is that we saw, and the other folks here, as we have a lot of the folks that were critical in the Sonatrol days as well that are on our team in a design capacity. But we saw that the security industry needs a marketing firm that can work with small local security companies. We saw that with our dealer channel at Sonatrol, and I still see it today. And we've worked with hundreds of security companies, as well as most of the national ones, but our passion is and continues to be working with the small companies, because we just feel like a lot of times they're without a voice. And at least in your scenario, you're fortunate to work with Monitronics, and you've got some resources at your disposal, while a lot of the industry does not have that luxury. So let's just kick off today's webinar, and I thought it'd be worth starting with a quick recap. The way these webinars were built were in a funnel. The very first webinar, we started looking at growing a business, right? You got to start something, or you're in it. I'm presuming most of you are already in it, so you've got limited funds, and you got to kind of determine, your approach, right? And the first webinar we looked at, do you build up an inside sales organization and call center environment, or do you build up an outside sales organization with a sales team and a bit of a door knocking environment? So In that webinar, we looked at both. We looked at considerations and recommendations. We actually got a little kind of one step down. We said, okay, well, now that you obviously have figured out your sales structure and how you want to go to market, it's time to kind of look at marketing. And it's time to look at some of the more popular methods of marketing. And I think last month we actually explored a lot of probably the top 6 most popular methods out there that are probably the ones that we're most often requested to perform. And in there, we shared a lot of marketing metrics in that presentation. We talked about tips, we talked about tactics, and things of that nature. So this month, when we really looked at marketing metrics, we've already given you a lot of them. So what we wanted to actually drill it down one final step. And today, what we want to look at is not just the popular marketing programs, but the types of programs and how we categorize them. And we really look at them in two different buckets. We look at them as promotional marketing and brand building and things like that, and we also look at it as event-based marketing. And we're going to kind of look at those two types of solutions. We also want to kind of zoom in specifically on event-based marketing because, in my experience, that is the one that has the best close rate and the one that converts to revenue, which is what we all care about. So we're going to explore those, and we're going to look all the way from Facebook to Yellow Pages, and we're going to, of course, like in the last one where we talked a lot about metrics, we're going to tie a lot of the metrics this time around the event-based marketing stuff. So if you've missed the previous webinars that we just talked about, all of them, like we said at the beginning, are archived on our site on that URL at the very bottom of the screen that you see right now, and are also archived and available to you on Monitronics.net. So to start, before you really look at anything, you do have to kind of set a budget. And what's kind of interesting is, when I grew up, there was 2 camps of marketing. There was business to consumer and business to business. And they operated with some of the similar tools, but they were used completely different. If you were to think of B2B, it would be a company selling a service to another company. And those rules were more guerrilla warfare. They were very targeted. They were very specific because you were going after a title or a person inside a company that could buy or procure your services. Business to consumer, on the other hand, was all over the board. I mean, it was billboards and radio ads, and it was just high dollar stuff. Coca-Cola, TV spots, Super Bowl commercials. And what's so interesting is I think as the metrics are coming in, what the business to consumer companies like us that sell security systems to homes, because a lot of us on the call also sell to businesses, so I'm going to talk about them separately. But if you're selling business security solutions to homes, you don't have that kind of money. As much as you may want to have a Super Bowl commercial, you're probably not going to be able to afford it. So what you'll find over the past probably 5 years, we've actually seen the business to consumer activity begin to mirror business to business because of economic conditions and just ROI. It's very difficult to measure the impact of a lot of the business to consumer stuff. So the data I'm going to show you is for business to business, but it is now, interestingly enough, shifted around, has become a recommended benchmark for business to consumer companies, which is so. In all scenarios, this should fit people on the phone. If you're a big company with an established brand, you don't, frankly, have to spend as much on marketing. And that's good because as your revenue gets bigger and bigger, that dollar becomes huge. But if you're a small organization, you've got to spend it. And if you want to really grow, you got to spend a little bit more. And I can tell you that, companies like Salesforce.com, even in the .com bubble, were spending 15, 16% of their revenue on marketing. So it's the ones that are wanting to grow quickly and can spend some money on that are going to see that pay off. So to give you an idea, sometimes you look at these numbers and it's hard to connect the dots. If your revenue right now, if you're on the phone and you were to kind of just add up your revenue and you're about $350,000 a year, and you wanted to budget a 10% of your revenue on marketing, it's about $3,000 a month. And that may sound like a lot, but but you need to get over that, and you need to kind of say, wait a minute. And that doesn't mean you spend it with us or anyone in particular, but you need to dedicate $3,000 back into your business and marketing your company. And some people I've seen, kind of cobble that together in sales and marketing activities, and some actually make it exclusive to marketing. But it's really your decision internally. But you got to be spending money, especially in a market that is as competitive as the security space. Now, you may see, if you're ever kind of tooling around and you pick up a marketing magazine or grab coffee with somebody else that's in marketing, they may tell you 10 different ways to measure the average recommended spend for marketing. But, I found it easiest to just go by a percentage of revenue. It varies a little by industry, but this is kind of just a generic percentage. But nonetheless, you need to start thinking about your spend there. So let's talk a little bit about promotional versus event-based marketing. And internally, we typically look at these this way, and I'll explain kind of the context of it later. Promotional marketing is predictable. It is something with unlimited potential. There's typically not been an event that has happened. So think about this like I called you at home and said, Mr. Smith, I want to know if you want to buy a security system, right? The good news is I can call thousands and thousands of people at home. I'm not beholden to anybody. There's nothing really stopping me other than a little money and a call center. There's not been a live event. So your main competition in a promotional marketing strategy, frankly, is prospect apathy. It's and we've heard it all. I've got a gun. I've got a dog. I don't really care. Leave me alone. Thank you very little. So those are situations where, you just got to outrun it. And the biggest factors of success in those are price and promotion. So, if I've got you on the phone, I'm trying to get you to buy an alarm system and you don't think you need one, if it's completely free, you probably would say, well, it can't hurt. Sure, I'll take it, right? Or the promotion, right? The brand, the deal, right? The deal, right? What is the deal? And that deal is a factor. But you will see in general, most of these things are a lower close rate. And I would say a lot of them hover around the 6 to 8% close rate, but I've seen them as high as 15 and as low as 2. And these are the activities that we typically think of as promotional. Email marketing, direct mail, telemarketing, and typically door-to-door. And I'll explain why. So if I go door-to-door and I show up at your house, the odds of there having just been a life event such as a break-in are very, very rare, unless you're really, really lucky. Now, however, new construction is an event, and that may be something. So in many ways, we may refer to these as promotional, but it doesn't mean they can't be used to help map back to events. So there's no reason why I couldn't target through an aggressive email campaign new homeowners or direct mail to people in areas where I know there's high crime, right? Or telemarket into new homeowner lists, or even go door-to-door in areas that are building new houses and we know people are moving in and things like that, or following crime reports or burg reports that you go down to the police department and get burg reports and trying to address those. In all situations, they absolutely can be used in that capacity. But what we're referring to is a little different. We talk about event-based marketing. We're talking about following the bouncing ball, and let me introduce event-based marketing, and then I'll kind of put it into context. Event-based marketing to us are events that are primarily reactive. There's nothing, other than some planning and strategy, you can't really accelerate it. I can call 1 million homeowners, but if I'm going after homeowners that have had break-ins, the universe is more finite, right? So there is some restriction around it. I call these no-brainers because they're life events, and these are people that are going to make a decision. The question is, are they going to make the decision with you? Your competition in this area are the traditional competitors. It's other local players, it's regional players, it's national players, and it is very, very aggressive. And we live in an industry, we've looked at stats that are all over the board, but just anecdotally, we're in an industry with 2 or 3 brands you heard of and about 100,000 you've never heard of. And, that's just a lot of noise and a lot of people trying to be heard, and you've got to really attempt in a unique way and tell why you're different to really be heard, because if you just scream at the top of your lungs, it's just more noise. The strategy in this area is really what's important. It's how you do it is what gets the eyeballs. But the good news is in this area, these have a higher closing rate, from 10 to 40%, and I'll explain why. If you look to the right, directories, yellow pages, things like that, being seen online, paper lead sites, and where people have actually gone on and filled out a form and did a Google search, and then referrals and social media. It's kind of like I could go to my neighbors and say, well, hey, Billy, who do you use for security? Well, I use XYZ company. Oh, great. Well, you can't really control that other than some kind of customer referral program that maybe you do, and you should have something like that already. But social media has become very, very popular, and we'll talk about that later, and that is actually becoming a high-tech substitute for referrals. So we're going to talk about how to kind of get in the middle of that, and we're going to explore that a little later. So how does all this come together? And why is marketing a home security system so hard? Well, here's why. And this is why, frankly, when we start working with companies, it's tough because most of them have been burned by a marketing firm. Somebody blazed into town that has never sold a security system in their life. They don't understand the mechanics of the business, and they don't get this, and they spend a lot of money. But this is what goes down, and you guys probably live it just like we all do. I go visit somebody, and I'm telling them my very, very best, explaining why he needs it, the benefits, the value, the discount on your insurance, and he kind of gives you the old hairy eyeball and says, well, don't call me, I'll call you. I live in a safe neighborhood, I've got a dog, I've got a gun, I don't need one, whatever, right? And that's yesterday, right? We're not, and days before, right? Well, then what happens is today, this morning, someone broke in, or someone broke in next door, right? And suddenly it's panic, right? This very rational person that would usually, in their professional life may do a request for proposal and compare the pros and cons of solution A versus solution B, goes crazy. There was a break-in, and he's panicked. And this person they don't really think like a rational person. So here's the thing. There's so many of us out there trying to get in front of this person that it doesn't take long. In fact, a lot of the security companies that we talk to will come out sometimes even that day and put it in if the sense of urgency is there. And so tomorrow, he's in. The system's in, and we all love the security contracts, and that's great when they're our contracts, but when it's a competitive contract, it really, really stinks because it's firstborn and signed in blood, and for 3 years, this person's now off the market. So the window of opportunity is so narrow that I could spend a lot of money every month on radio and billboards and TV, but the odds of this very, very panicked individual in the middle of it all remembering my ad are very, very rare. It's very rare that we see a company have that kind of local brand strength to pull that off. Even big brands like ADT make it hard because there's dealers and things like that where you just don't really know who to call. So if you follow the bouncing ball, what does the panicked person do, right? Well, there's two things we see them do, right? And I've heard all kinds of discussions around is it an age thing? Is it a technical acumen thing? But these events definitely impact their behavior. Now, what we're talking about right now is primarily around break-ins and things like that. There are also life events that don't trigger such a state of panic, such as moving. Oftentimes, moving is planned. Obviously, you've bought a house, you've arranged the moving truck, but having said that, oftentimes security is something you just don't think about. All right, you move, and you're thinking you're not going to forget the moving truck, but if the security system's in the house when you get there, it may or may not. So if you just kind of stick with the main life events, it tends to be yellow pages, and it tends to be online, and that tends to be where people go. So you've got to be there. All right, you've got to be there to catch that, and remember, this happens and goes down sometimes in 24 to 48 hours. We're seeing a lot of security companies now sell directly over the phone and only send a rep out if the house is over 2,500 square feet or asks for it. We've seen companies that insist on sending a rep out and show up to find the system has already been sold and installed. And they're like, well, why did you agree to see me? And the homeowner says, well, you wanted to come out. So, you know, you've got to really kind of follow the customer and follow the prospect's behavior and map to that. So these events are valid to them, and they absolutely do impact behavior. And it all goes down in about 48 hours. So let's talk about the first on the left, the directories, the yellow pages. I think there's some things that you need to know. You have to have a yellow. You absolutely have to have a yellow page listing. It is too important. And in fact, if you don't, oftentimes, especially being a small dealer, people presume you're not even a dealer. They just kind of they think you're a trunk slammer or someone that's not even legitimate. So you have to have one. But I can tell you, if you have a limited budget, placement trumps ad size every time, and you want to get as close to the heading as you can. So, and that's why you see, you know, companies that do AAA moving or AAA moving, you know, and they're all trying to find out whatever they can to get close to the heading. So, you know, the closer to the heading, the better, and you want to be away from the fold of the book. You kind of want to be on the outside of the book. Those are the things you need to be thinking about. But do not overspend on yellow pages. You will get a very excitable young yellow page salesperson to sit in front of you and try to sign you up for the world, and frankly, it's just not worth it. So you got to do it, but you need to do it smart, and you need to measure, and you need to demand proof that what they're telling you is valid. Also, you know, if you're comparing local directories versus the big book, you know, there's probably 50 different yellow page competitors now floating around there. You just got to stick with the main ones. So what is the strategy around this? I think when you're thinking about your ad, you need to clearly state why you're different. That's all that matters, why you're different. And you need to state what you do. The services you provide have to be listed. Unfortunately, people tend to see if it's not listed that you don't do it. And to that end, you also may want to place your ad in other headings. Just, you know, if you sell alarms and video surveillance, you may want to be in there twice. Promote that you're local. That is your trump card, and I would absolutely you've got to leverage a brand like Monitronics that they will recognize and gives you credibility. But what makes them call you is that you're local. People want to do business with local people. So I think those two strategy components need to be in there. The last one is don't put your regular phone number on there. Get a unique phone number. And oftentimes the yellow page companies can provide that. I've seen people use Google Voice, which is free, and it just rings through to your main number, but it at least allows you to track it. And what the things I would be looking for are, is it worth maybe going with a bigger size next year, or maybe, you know, do I want to look at placement of the ad? You know, is one category generate more revenue or calls than another? You know, is one phone book better than another? So I would be moving that thing around, and unfortunately, I can't give you a lot of guidance around that because each local market operates differently than other local markets. So if you're in Kansas City, it's going to be different than Philadelphia. So you got to kind of find your way there, and you just have to test it out. And the only data point you're ever going to get is a unique phone number, because if you just anecdotally ask somebody, you know, if we got any calls from the yellow pages, frankly, you won't know. So I would put different phone numbers and be able to track those. Here's a Monitronics ad that grabbed my attention, and I just wanted to kind of point out some things I liked about it. One, it clearly leveraged the Monitronics logo. It leveraged the deal, which typically grabs people's attention. It leveraged that they're local, and it leveraged the monitoring is affordable, and it mentions their services, and it mentions residential, commercial. On the bottom, it's blacked out, but there's a phone number at the bottom, which is nice and clear. The only things I would have maybe done differently is I probably would have leveraged a website so people can go and find out more, although in the yellow pages arena, most people are going to call versus go to a website. But I still would have leveraged a web address. And I might have found a way, instead of putting residential commercial really big, I might have put, you know, serving, you know, the greater Los Angeles area or whatever city you're in. I think that is a big resonator. But so these are the kinds of things I would be thinking about. The good news is, you know, Monitronics has resources for you. The Pro Shop has yellow page templates that are available to you. There's a PDQ campaign that has been assembled based on a lot of research that they put into it. You can see some various artwork that they can give you that's nice and eye-catching. So it's a cool ad. You should look at that, and it can be used not just in Yellow Pages, but really any directory that you want to put your ad in. They also have some standard Yellow Page templates and things like that in the Pro Shop that you can select the size and things like that, and it'll help build one. So I actually like the one here that's on the screen because it's got a photo which does grab your attention. It shows a deal, a promotion. It has the person's logo and things like that. So you can't go wrong. But the thing you don't want to do is make up your own ad. Don't spend 20 minutes and whip something out and throw it over the wall. It's too important, and that's something people do look at, and don't do that. Couple metrics of why I think this is worth doing. These are some stats that we typically think about. 52% of the consumers have no service provider in mind or have multiple names in mind when they go into Yellow Pages. So you have a good shot. The first ad noticed is the first ad called. Make it stand. And it doesn't always mean it's the biggest, right? It's the one that has some punch to it. So take some time and make sure it's designed properly. If your quarter page ad falls on the inside fold of the book, your readership is decreased by 50%. I mean, that's a massive factor to not think through. And a little secret is if your ad's the size of a 3/8 ad or a dollar bill size, the size of a dollar bill, it can't go in the fold. So that's something to think about. And the average business out there gets $6 in profit from every dollar spent on advertising. So it's a metric for you to think about. Do not overspend on Yellow Pages. You will get upsold on being in the online directory and all these other directories, and you can spend a lot of money on there, and I wouldn't get caught up in all that. I'd rather save your money and spend it more on Google. Also, Monitronics has put together Angie's List, which is it's a review site. It offers reviews on providers, has about 1 million members, and Morgan is available if you would like to get started on that. They can help get you on Angie's List and things like that. So that's something that's a service that Monitronics has made available for you guys. Let's talk about online. That's the second in the little wheel I showed. I want to just, I presume people know what I'm talking about, but I like to show you as well. What you see in that little blue box up top, that's a paid ad up top. So when we talk about paid search, we're talking about that as well as that. You will see here that the only difference between being at the top and on the right is the people at the top paid the most. So that's positions 1, 2, and 3. Those are the top paying people, and then it goes to the right. And then everything below is your natural rankings for search engine optimization. And at the end, we're also going to talk a little bit about pay-per-lead. So I thought I would show you while we're on one screen where all these things fit. And the things that are black circled are pay-per-lead sites collection points, where you fill out one form and you get quotes from 4 companies. And you could see, if you just back out of this and you sit down as a homeowner, there's a lot of data points going on here. and this is a tame one. Put in home alarms in Denver and it goes crazy. Maps show up and blinking lights and it goes nuts. So there's a lot of factors to think about. But I at least wanted to just level set on some terminology. The thing is, whether you like it or not, or whether you have an ad or not, there are local people looking for you right now. They may be looking for a local Monitronics dealer. They may be just looking for a security solution. But nonetheless, you want to be there. And so I just kind of picked a market, like Denver, and because this is kind of a secondary market. I mean, it's not L.A., but it's also not, some very, very small town either. But nonetheless, there's a lot of volume of just monthly searches, local monthly searches going on for Denver terms. My point is that people are searching. It's just, they are or they are not finding you. So these are things that are really the best kinds of leads because they are reaching out to you directly and you don't have a lot of competition. So this is the ideal state is getting something that's compelling around search. The thing is about Google, too, is it's a moving target. In fact, what Google will tell you is we've never even seen 16% of the queries every day, which means in a given day, 16% of the things that people type into Google, they've never even been typed in before. So we're a very creative society, and we're coming up with more specific and succinct ways to search for what we want. And so you can't just pick a few terms and let it ride. It needs to be actively managed, and it needs to be something that you're always looking at. What's the next search combination? Because if you just let it ride, you're going to run up a tab. We've seen page one for popular keywords going up to $30 a click. It could be very expensive to do a paid ad. And there was a time when Bing was cheaper, but not anymore. And Facebook, at one point when we started doing Facebook advertising, it was under $1, and now it's gone up to several dollars. So my point is that because 16% of the terms are new each day, there's all kinds of new terms that attract people, and it's an opportunity for you to keep a click cost under $5. We recommend, just like in the Yellow Page, philosophically they're the same in that you want to showcase your local presence. You want to give them a reason to click. You want to set your ad in a tight geographical area, and then the content network is something you probably don't want to get too much involved with, and you definitely need to put some budgets in place. Now, we have talked through this, I think, last month a little bit, and we're actually going to drill into this much deeper in December. So I'm not going to spend too much time, but I did want to come back to this a little bit and just kind of set some guidelines and guardrails for you guys as you're starting to look at, do I spend some money on Google and paid things like that. When we get into this in December, however, we're going to get into specifics about Bing. We're going to get into some specifics about Facebook and how to do some very specific targeting, which is actually why people even advertise on Facebook and how it all kind of comes together. This is just a sample ad that I put in here. I thought if you're going to put an ad, make sure you're leveraging keywords like home security, leveraging where you are like Atlanta, and your deal, your promotion, because that's typically what gets people's attention, and that you're local. Those are kind of the big factors you want to make sure you have. There's a new factor that's in town that's kind of screwing things up for everybody, and it's the Google +1. And it's Google's attempt to really become like Twitter and Facebook. And you can see even from the screen the little +1 on our website that if you just click it, what it does is it's your recommendation of a website. Or you can see at the bottom, right here, in a search, if you're logged into Google, you will see this +1 pop up. What it does is, and you click it, you're basically voting for it or recommending it. Why does that matter? Well, it matters because Google +1 is probably the fastest growing social media outlet out right now. Very quickly growing. It also changes up the rankings for your friends. So, if you just think about if I need a home security system and someone broke in last night and I'm panicked, I'm going to the Yellow Pages, obviously. I go on Google, I do a search. Well, what are some other things to think about? Well, my friend's recommendation might be a factor, right? If I saw my buddy had, liked it, right, or starred it, or something he liked, I would it would jump out at me. I may not go run and cut him, give him my credit card, but at least would either reach out to my buddy and ask him some other questions about his experience with that company, or I would reach out to that company directly and explore them. So it's absolutely a way to stand out. And my point is that it's kind of like referrals on demand. I mean, I may not know my buddy bought a system with Monitronics a year ago, but he was responding to something. He clicked a button, and now he's tagged, right? And now he's in here recommending it. So now here, fast forward a year later, I need a security system, and I need it now, and boom, it mentions to me, oh, by the way, your buddy likes Monitronics. So I just showed some examples of just some companies that are out there, and this you can see here. So when you hit +1, it actually says like this would be Bobby Smith +1 this in this case, since I was logged in and knew that I +1 this. So let's talk about pay-per-lead and why this is also growing. We talked about this, I think, last month, so I'm going to kind of drill in this a little bit. I just want to mention it because it is part of the event-driven stuff. But this is growing quickly, and it's because of the confusion online. People are going online and they just don't know. They don't really trust anybody. And so they think if I go with a pay-per-lead, there's less risk because, obviously these providers are going to be reputable. If I get these security companies to compete, I'll get a good deal. I mean, the brand names that are listed on the site, so they say, hey, if I go with provider A or provider B, I've heard of both. Whoever gives me the best deal is who I'm going to go with. It's Chevy, GM, Ford. I mean, you can't really go wrong. You're going to get a comparable vehicle in their minds. So they like the idea of letting the three compete. to get their business. And it's easy and it's free. So it's growing. We're seeing it grow. And we actually have a program in place, and I will mention it not as a commercial for N2O, but just to show you kind of how these programs work. The average closing rate in these programs is 10 to 15%. Your average lead cost can be all over the board, but it's about $25. But what matters is the lead cost per deal. We typically see these programs come in at $150 to $200, which means when you take your entire marketing spend over the course of a month, and you take how many deals you got and you divide them, it should be about $150 kind of creation cost for a deal. How does it work? Well, the one we manage, I can tell you how that one works. We actually do an aggregate program. I mean, you can work with a couple of these on your own, but we actually pull them all together. So we allow somebody to come in and buy leads from the top 8, I guess that's 8, yeah, the top 8 paper lead sites out there. So, no matter what they fill out, it comes to you. And it flows into our routing system and assigns it to a dealer, and it's delivered right into their inbox. It's sent email, text message, and can be posted to their CRM system or to our portal that we give them. So my point is that there is a way to channel these leads into a nice, clean supply stream, and these are legitimate deals going on, and frankly, if they're not, you turn them for credit. So these are deals going on. The question is, were you alerted to them, and are you in the stands or are you on the field, right? So if you're in the field, you're going to get bruised up a little bit, and you are going to be competing. So you just have to know it is a competitive environment, and it's just a choice you make to get some opportunities. So let's talk about social media. Every company should have a Facebook, Twitter, Google Places, and LinkedIn page. You just should. It's in fact crazy if you don't. And even if you're not using it, go get the name, because you sure as heck wouldn't want to decide a year from now that you really need one, and someone snagged your name of your company. So I would definitely do that. I'm going to talk a little bit about this today, but I'm going to drill in on Facebook because we just don't have time. But in January, we're actually going to unpack all of it, and we're going to go through each one and some tips and tactics around that. So let's talk about some strategy and metrics. Around strategy, here's the thing. You going out and getting a Facebook page is good, but it's not enough. It's not going to actually get you any more revenue, which is really how a lot of our folks measure it. If you think about Facebook as a friend network, logic would seem that there is a way to leverage that as a referral channel, right? How can I get referrals, right? And we've found a way to do that, and I'll show you how ours works. And there's other solutions out there, but I can at least talk about the concept of what we do. And the concept is leveraging the like channel, right? That someone clicks like, and I'm going to show you in a second, to market to followers, friends. So you've got someone that's following you. You want their friends to know they like you, right? And other than just being liked, that I always laugh at the word like because it sounds cute, but the reality is it's an endorsement, it's a recommendation, it's a referral. And those, as we all know in the security space, personal referrals are the #1 highest converting lead source there is. So nothing's better than that. So that's why I think it's worth taking a second look at social media. And if you do it right, you can get their contact information, right? And then you can market to them, and that's really the holy grail of it all. So I'll talk a little bit about how it works. So remember, the goal is to promote your brand to their friends. And let me just give you a couple stats on Facebook before we get too far into it, because I think these are why it's worth a view. There are 800 million active users on Facebook. I mean, it's crazy. Now, these are global, but if you just think about the United States, there were only 123 million of the people that voted for president in the 2008 election. So my point is that it's a monster number of people. And here's the kicker. 50% of the users log on at least once a month. So, I mean, it is a group of loyal followers. The average time when you're on Facebook is 55 minutes, and the average user has 130 friends. So if I have a customer and they like me on Facebook, that's literally the same as them saying, I like this local Monitronics dealer for this reason or that reason, or they gave me a great deal, or I really like them, they're personable. I really liked Frank, the salesperson. He was just really, really nice. If you guys need him, you should, leverage that channel. I mean, great, go tell your neighbor, and we'll have a referral program, but man, put on Facebook you like me, because that's 130 people that just got your mini endorsement, and that's powerful. You know, and that's the average, right? I mean, I know lots of people with 300-400 friends. I mean, that's a lot of people to get your brand in front of. So let's talk about how our application works, and you can kind of just get a sense of ways to do this. So if you go to like the N2O Marketing's Facebook page, it's facebook.com/N2O Marketing, you will see an offer, right? It says this is for our search engine optimization that we do for websites for companies, and it says special promotion, click the like button to get a fan-only offer, right? And so you don't know what the offer is unless you click the like button, right? So obviously you click the like button, what happens? Well, two things happen, right? Well, if they click like, the first thing that pops up is this window. It says help your friends discover by writing a recommendation for N2O Marketing, right? So here's where Susie puts, you know, I like N2O Marketing, they're neat, blah, 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 it's great, recommend. What just happened is that recommendation was posted to her wall, and everyone sees it, right? I mean, and that's hundreds of friends just now know how great our company is and your company is. And in security, that's a referral, right? Let's say they say no thanks, right? No thanks, I don't want to do that, right? Well, that's still posted to their wall that they like your company name. So that's still an endorsement, albeit not as good as a recommendation. The one I like is the share button, which is the other button they can click. You can actually pre-write a commercial. So like, you know, for limited time, N2O Marketing's offer a deal on website optimization. You can put whatever you want in there. You know, the best security company in Seattle, we've put in more home security than anybody else. I mean, you can put whatever you want in there. Pre-write it, and if they click share, it not only puts what they want to put, like says, say something about this, you know, hey, I like these guys, they're great, whatever. It puts this little commercial at the bottom, right? How awesome is that? So you're not only getting an endorsement, but you're able to script your own little commercial, and you're leveraging people. And the reality is a lot of people's friends are local people. So if I'm in Seattle, I'm trying to sell home alarm systems, and if I can enable our existing customers to do this through some promotion where they like us on Facebook, I'm actually, you know, it's that, you know, she tells two friends, and then they tell two friends, and they tell two friends, and that's one way to kind of in a guerrilla warfare method get your brand out there and not have to spend a ton of money. I mean, you know, you're not paying per click on this thing. So let's look at the final. So what happens? So you click share, you click recommend, and what's the next step, right? Well, the next step is they're now presented with the offer, right? And here, hey, you know, you're going to get some extra time on analyzing your website, and you need to fill out your name, email, phone, and company, and you're in, right? We'll get you the deal, right? So what's cool about that is you just got their name, email, phone, and company, right? Which is great. Now you've got a sales lead. So you've just taken something that is a social media application and converted that into a referral tool by leveraging your existing customer base's friend network. So if you take our existing customers and multiply it times 200, because you're hitting all their friends in a referral capacity, and then you're getting the names. Now you're getting the names obviously of the people that are signing out, but then they tell two friends, and they tell two friends, and the thing just kind of takes its own and forms its own life out of this. So it's very powerful if you chant it properly, and so it's not just about getting on Facebook. It's about leveraging Facebook's infrastructure to create sales opportunities. There's also a Twitter factor that impacts search that, you know, frankly, kind of snuck up on a lot of people. Google will actually incorporate tweets from people that you're connected to on Twitter. And it kind of, you know, these are the things that make search engine optimization hard, because, you know, you work your tail off and you get someone optimized on page one, and then someone tweets and bumps you. Or they do a press release and bumps you. Or they do a Google Places account and bumps you. So, I mean, these are things that you should be doing yourself. And, you know, I'll give you an example. If a homeowner searches for a local alarm company and sees that a friend tweeted about them, it's going to show up in a result. This is the one I'm showing you right now as a security company, a regional player out there that we know and that we're following on Twitter. We think we follow each other. And what happened is I typed in on my computer home security system, which is a monster term, and they were on page one. And look what it put. They provide the perfect solution for the Nashville Humane Association. I mean, I hardly think that their Humane Association note earned page 1 for one of the more coveted Google terms. It's the fact that they tweeted that, and so it pulled their page information, their brand, but pulled their tweet through that. And the reason I saw it is because I'm on Twitter. So there's a Twitter factor that kind of gets in the mix, and that's why, and we'll talk later about it in December, but that's why Twitter is a factor. But you shouldn't just tweet, like the village idiot. I mean, you got to kind of tweet about strategic things. You need to tweet about keywords that have traffic and volume, because just as they were smart and tweeted on home security system for a reason, right? That's a big, big, bad word, and look, they got ranked on page 1 because of a tweet. So my point here is there's a lot of fluffy things out there in marketing that don't really convert to revenue, but there's ways to channel those fluffy things and make them, hard them up and make them usable and make them something that actually can be worth doing and paying for and generating leads from. As far as tools, we're just a few more minutes, we'll be done. We've got 10 more minutes. Tools for door knockers. This is one of these things where it's kind of like the go where the food is. And this is something that I was so thrilled to see Monitronics offer this, because this is one of the things that we did at Sonatrol. And we actually had maps printed up in all the sales offices that had where the crime is. And obviously if the crime's super bad, then you probably don't want to go door to door unless you're heavily armed. Or in a Caprice Classic, so you look like an undercover cop. We've done that. But you don't want to go to where it's a 34 score or an 8 score, which means the national average of crime is 100. So anything greater than that is worse than the national average. Anything less than that's less than the national average. So I may not want to go over to what does that say? Mission Rock, where there's an 8. I could go door to door all day, and they're just going to look at me like I'm lost my mind. And they're going to go, well, yeah, I mean, no one breaks in here. This is like Disneyland over here. But yet you drive maybe a little ways down the road here at a 268 or even a 105. I'd probably go after the 105 because they're close enough to the 268s that they don't quite feel safe, and they probably have decent credit enough that they'll get approved. So. Sometimes when you go after the higher crime areas, they sure want your solution, but they don't have any money. But this is great information, and this is something that you can get from your regional account coordinator of Monitronics, and it's a must-have. And in fact, we used to have this printed out, and we had it in our sales presentations for our customers, and we'd say, hey, listen, you probably know this anecdotally, but I'm going to give you some data that you're not in a safe area. You may want to go ahead and get those roof accessible windows censored because you're not in the best area of town. So this is a powerful data point that you should be considering. Okay, so hey, we did good on time. So let's talk about what's next, right? We're halfway in December, January, February, the next webinars. December, we are planning to bump it up a week, mainly just because there are a lot of folks, we just would talk to some of you guys individually that weren't going to be around that week of Christmas, so we did bump it up a week. This is the date, and we'll have that updated on the Monitronics site. But let's talk about what we're going to talk about next. So next month we're going to drill into paid search, and we talked some about Google today, but we're actually going to drill into Bing, and we're going to talk about Facebook and how to leverage the Facebook advertising platform. It's pretty powerful. I mean, you can actually target 50-year-old white males that live in Denver, and so it's kind of nice if you want to pick a demographic or segment, and not that you would pick one demographic over the other, but you may want to word your ad that way. You may want to say, hey, white 50-year-old male in Denver, do you want to buy my security system? Just kidding, but you could if you wanted. In January, we're going to look at social media, and we're going to look at, again, we touched briefly today on Facebook and an application, but we're going to look at Twitter, we're going to look at LinkedIn, and we're going to look at Google Plus and how those can all be leveraged, because these are you can't ignore these. You can get in your car and say, man, I'm going to sell. Today I'm going to sell, or I'm going to get out there and sell. And you go door to door and you do your thing, and you get home at night and you're going to be tired. But I wouldn't say you're working smarter. I'd say you're working harder. I think the smarter person does both. You know, you build these channels, you get them working for you, and then go out and sell, right, while these things are set up and helping deliver leads to you. So you got to make time for this kind of stuff, and you can't just ignore it and put it on your to-do list for the future one day. It's something you got to look at now. And you got resources and you have people that can help you do it now. So I would take advantage of that. The last thing we're going to look at is we're going to kind of finish up the series, and we're going to, you know, we started the series on, you know, do you do door knocking, do you do, you know, call center, you know, centralized. Obviously, through this whole process, we talked a lot about tools of door knocking. We're going to kind of revisit that, but we're also going to talk about, you know, as you kind of grow, right, as we see companies say, okay, I've gotten really good at what I'm doing, and I'm in this city. Now I want to go to this city and that city and that city and that city. Well, you can do that by hiring salespeople in all the cities, or you can do that by selling centrally and then expanding people as the volume warrants. But, you know, as long as Monitronics blesses it, you can sell in an area bigger than you're in. But you do that through some kind of central coordinated effort, and there's different rules in that. There's different tools. So that's what we're going to look at in February, and that'll round it out. This webinar, of course, as with the others, are posted on Monitronics.net. They're also on our website on N2O Marketing. And, of course, if you guys need anything, if you ever want to talk or have questions, we're available. You can give us a call. Our number's right there. Our email's right there. I didn't see a lot of questions pop up, so I'm presuming everybody's okay. And I will just give a couple minutes before we shut down the webinar to leave any questions for anybody. Or Renee, if you want to say any closing words, go ahead and jump in.
Yeah, sure. Well, thank you very much. That was very informative. Just wanted to give you guys a heads up that next Tuesday is the next Monty U webinar that we have with a focus on funding and preparing paperwork. And we'll also update the next N2O Marketing webinar to change that date to December 15th, as you mentioned, Greg. And we mentioned earlier today, or Greg did, that Morgan would be happy to help assist you with an Angie's List directory listing. So if you are interested in that, we didn't include her contact information, but it's just first initial, last name. So mtobias@monitronics.com. You can email her, and she'll be able to get you started on that. We're trying to take a collection all at once to submit, so if you could get that to her by next Tuesday, that would be helpful. And as we've mentioned several times, these are archived both on that site and more specifically in .NET. You can go to the tutorial section. There's a link on DHub or your on main .NET page that you can click, and that's where the archive webinar will be stored on .NET as well. And other than that, just please continue registering for the Monty U webinars. You just select events section, and the link is available there for you. So thank you so much, Greg. And again, if there's any questions, take it away.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody, for attending.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.